It's a good bounce back win for us today. I thought we started the game with the right tone on the defensive end, and so that was that was by design for us.
The ink hadn't even dried on the massive announcement from NBC before the questions started flying, but this wasn't just about basketball anymore. It was about a billion-dollar mistake that has fans absolutely stunned. You have probably heard the noise surrounding the Olympic roster snub, but what just happened with the latest media reveal changes everything, painting a picture of a league at war with its own biggest asset. When NBC and the WNBA dropped the news of their historic media rights deal, the valuation was shocking, shattering records and promising a new era of wealth for the sport. But beneath the celebration lies a darker narrative involving Team USA coach Cheryl Reeve, a stubborn selection committee, and a fan base that feels completely betrayed. We need to talk about the timing of this because it exposes a level of disconnect that is almost impossible to believe. The league is cashing checks written off the back of Caitlin Clark's popularity, yet the very people running the show on the international stage seemed determined to keep her out of the spotlight. It raises a question that is uncomfortable but necessary. Is the coaching staff actively sabotaging the biggest marketing engine the sport has ever seen, just to prove a point about hierarchy? The evidence is starting to stack up. And when you look at what Coach Reeve has said, combined with the sheer amount of money NBC is putting on the table, the situation looks less like a basketball decision and more like a personal vendetta that backfired in spectacular fashion. But to understand why this NBC announcement makes the snub look so much worse, we have to look at the timeline of disrespect that led us here. This wasn't just a simple roster cut, it was a statement. When the roster was finalized, the justification was all about experience and longevity. They told us that the Olympic team wasn't the place for a rookie, no matter how talented. But here is where the narrative starts to crumble. The WNBA has been struggling for viewership for decades, fighting tooth and nail for every second of airtime. Then, suddenly, a singular force arrives, selling out arenas, forcing networks to change their broadcast schedules, and driving ticket prices through the roof. Enter the NBC deal. The network didn't just decide to invest billions out of the kindness of their hearts. They looked at the numbers. They saw the Clark effect. They saw the millions of eyes glued to screens every time number 22 stepped onto the court. So, when the announcement dropped that NBC would be a primary partner in broadcasting the future of the league, it was an implicit acknowledgement that Caitlin Clark is the product. Yet, at the exact same time, the gatekeepers of the sport, specifically the leadership behind Team USA, decided that the face of this billion-dollar revolution wasn't ready to represent the country. It is a contradiction that fans cannot wrap their heads around. Imagine a movie, studio paying hundreds of millions for a blockbuster franchise, and then the director decides to leave the lead actor out of the film because they haven't paid their dues yet. That is essentially what Coach Reeve and the committee did. And the fallout has been nothing short of catastrophic for the public image of the team. But if you think this is just about business, you are missing the personal side of this feud, because the tension between Cheryl Reeve and the Caitlin Clark phenomenon has been brewing for a long time. And the call-out fans are seeing now is the result of months of subtle jabs and passive-aggressive comments. It's no secret that the old guard of women's basketball is protective of their space. These are women who have played overseas for years, flown commercial, and played in empty gyms to build the league. Then in walks a rookie with a massive Nike deal, private security, and the adoration of the entire world before playing a single professional minute. The friction was inevitable. But Coach Reeve's handling of the situation has poured gasoline on the fire. Before the Olympic break, we saw interaction after interaction that hinted at a lack of respect. When asked about the Caitlin Clark fan base, the comments were dismissive, often framing the new fans as uneducated about the real history of the game. It felt like a rejection of the very people tuning in. And when the roster decision was made, Reeves stood firm on the idea that this was about chemistry. But let's be real for a second. Chemistry is important, but talent wins gold medals. And more importantly, talent builds the sport. By leaving Clark home, the message sent to the fans was clear. We don't care what you want, and we don't care about the ratings you bring. We are going to do this our way. It was a defiant stance, but the NBC announcement made that stance look foolish. You cannot separate the money from the player. The league is entering a golden age, financially specifically because of the interest Clark generates. By calling out the fans for being upset, or by dismissing the outrage as just noise, the coaching staff is biting the hand that feeds them. But that wasn't the whole story, because while the coach was holding the line, other voices started to crack. And what happened next revealed just how shaky the ground really was. Dawn Staley, a legend in the game and a member of the selection committee, eventually came out with a quote that shocked everyone. After seeing Clark's performance in the league leading up to the break, Staley admitted that if they had to do it all over again, Clark would be in the conversation. That is a massive walk back. It's an admission that they got it wrong. It validates every single fan who screamed that leaving her off was a mistake. But notice who didn't walk it back? Coach Reeve. The silence from the head coach regarding any regret is deafening. Instead, the focus remained on the players who were there. And sure, the team is stacked with legends. Aja Wilson, Brianna Stewart, these are incredible players. No one is denying that. But the NBC deal highlights the fact that great doesn't always equal profitable. The NBA learned this with the Dream Team in '92. You bring the stars because the stars bring the world. By treating the Olympic roster like a private club for veterans rather than a showcase for the future of the sport, they missed a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to globalize the women's game instantly. And the fans noticed. The ratings for the Olympic Games were good, yes, but compare them to a random Tuesday night Indiana Fever game on ION or NBC. The numbers don't lie. Clark outdraws the Olympic team in regular season matchups. That is a statistical reality that the coaches and the committee tried to ignore. But the NBC executives certainly didn't. They paid for the Clark era, and the Olympic team gave them a rerun of the last decade. It creates an awkward tension moving forward. How does the league promote its new billion-dollar partnerships when the leadership seems hostile toward the primary asset? It's a marketing nightmare, and the rumors swirling behind the scenes suggest this goes even deeper than just basketball decisions. There have been whispers for months about jealousy in the locker rooms, not just regarding attention, but regarding the treatment Clark receives. The charter flights issue, the security detail, the endorsements. There is a sense that the established hierarchy felt threatened. If they let Clark onto the Olympic team, would the media ignore Aja Wilson? Would the cameras only focus on the rookie on the bench? It is highly likely that the distraction factor played a huge role in the decision. They didn't want the circus. But here is the irony. By leaving her off, they created an even bigger circus. The story wasn't Team USA goes for gold. The story became, why isn't Caitlin Clark here? Every interview, every press conference, every post-game analysis was shadowed by her absence. They tried to avoid the distraction and instead became consumed by it. And now, with the NBC deal public, the financial reality is setting in. The players in the league are going to see their salaries increase, their travel conditions improve, and their exposure skyrocket. largely due to the influx of cash that Clark helped secure. Yet, the leadership that benefits from this cash is the same leadership that told her not yet. It is a dynamic that is going to cause friction for years. Imagine being a veteran player, cashing a check made possible by the rookie you helped freeze out. It's complicated, and the fans are not letting it go. Social media has been a war zone. Every time Team USA posted a graphic, the comments were flooded with "No Clark, no watch." While some of that is just internet trolling, a significant portion was a genuine boycott from new fans who felt unwelcome. They felt that if the sport didn't want their favorite player, then the sport didn't want them. This is the danger of the gatekeeping mentality. You can only tell the customers they are wrong for so long before they stop buying the product. NBC knows this. That is why they secured the rights. They know that the customer is always right, and the customer wants Caitlin Clark. The disconnect between the business side, NBC/WNBA commissioner, and the basketball side, Reeves/committee, is the biggest story in sports right now. It is a power struggle. Who runs the league? Is it the old guard who built the foundation, or is it the new wave that is actually filling the seats? The call-out happening now is essentially the market correcting the coach's mistake. The market says Clark is the MVP of attention. The coach said she wasn't top 12. One of them has to be wrong. And when you look at the $2.2 billion figure attached to the media deal, it's pretty clear who the money thinks is right. But the drama didn't stop with the roster announcement. In fact, things got even more heated when the games actually started and the comparisons began to roll in, revealing a gap that no one expected. Fans started breaking down the play styles. They saw the Team USA offense, efficient, dominant, but at times predictable, and compared it to the electric, fast-paced, high-risk, high-reward style that Clark plays. They argued that the Olympic team looked like old basketball, while Clark represents the modern era. This stylistic clash is at the heart of the Reeve controversy. Cheryl Reeve is a brilliant defensive coach. She values systems, execution, and reliability. Clark is chaos in the best way possible. She turns the ball over. She takes shots from the logo. She throws passes that might sail into the third row or might end up on a highlight reel for the next 10 years. It's possible that Reeve simply didn't want to deal with that style. She wanted control, and you can't control a phenomenon. But by choosing control over chaos, she also chose safety over spectacle. NBC didn't pay for safety. They paid for the spectacle. This is where the stunned reaction from the fans comes from. They can't believe that in 2024, with the world watching, the powers that be chose the boring route. It feels personal. It feels like a hazing ritual played out on a national stage. You have to wait your turn. But in the era of social media and instant streaming, waiting your turn is a death sentence for momentum. The momentum that Clark built coming out of the college tournament was historic. It was Tiger Woods levels of hype, and Team USA effectively hit the brakes on it. They had a Ferrari in the garage and took the minivan to the race. The minivan still won because Team USA is that much better than the rest of the world, but nobody lines up to take pictures of a minivan. The call-out over the NBC announcement is the fans realizing that the league has officially acknowledged Clark's value with their wallet, while the coach refused to acknowledge it with the roster spot. It is hypocrisy in plain sight. And let's talk about the chemistry excuse again, because it really falls apart when you look at how little practice time these Olympic teams actually get. They don't train for months. They throw a team together a few weeks before. The idea that Clark couldn't have figured it out, or that the greatest players in the world couldn't adapt to playing with an elite passer, is insulting to the players' intelligence. Of course, they could have made it work. They just didn't want to. And why? Was it really just basketball? Or was it the fear that the team would become the Caitlin Clark Show, featuring Team USA? That ego-driven decision-making is what has fans furious. They feel robbed of seeing a dream team lineup. Imagine Clark passing to Aja Wilson. Imagine Clark spacing the floor for Breanna Stewart. It would have been unstoppable and unmissable TV. Instead, we got a great team that won, but a team that felt distant from the cultural moment. The NBC deal proves that the cultural moment is where the money is. So, where do we go from here? The fallout from this is going to linger. Cheryl Reeve has to coach against Clark in the league. The rivalry is now cemented. Every time Clark's team plays a Reeve-coached team, or a team with Olympic committee members, it's going to be a grudge match. The fans are going to keep score. And every time Clark drops 30 points or 15 assists, the internet is going to tag Team USA and ask, "Still think she wasn't ready?" It's a ghost that will haunt the coaching staff for the entire 4-year cycle until the next Olympics. And frankly, they deserve the scrutiny. When you make a controversial decision, you have to own the results. The result here is a fractured fan base and a weird vibe around the biggest victory of the year. The gold medal should have been a celebration of unity. Instead, it became a debate about exclusion. And the NBC announcement was the final nail in the coffin for the basketball reasons argument. You cannot tell us she isn't good enough to play when she is good enough to secure a $2 billion bag for the entire league. The math just doesn't add up. And what happened next would shock everyone, because the players themselves started to crack under the pressure of the questions. We saw frustration boiling over in press conferences. Players were tired of answering questions about a girl who wasn't there, but they couldn't escape it. The shadow was too big. This is the new reality for the WNBA. You are either on the Caitlin Clark train or you are on the tracks. The Olympic Committee chose to stand on the tracks, and while they didn't get run over in the tournament, they got crushed in the court of public opinion. The NBC deal is the train. It's moving fast, it's loaded with cash, and it's fueled by the very player they tried to sideline. It is the ultimate "I told you so" from the universe. As we look toward the future, the question remains: will the old guard adapt? Will they accept that the landscape has changed? Or will they continue to fight a losing battle against the tide of popularity that Clark brings? The fans are stunned because the solution seems so simple. Embrace the star. Ride the wave. Grow the game together. Instead, we got division. We got us versus them. And in a niche sport trying to go mainstream, division is dangerous.